Our next guest at the India Today Conclave pop-up is actually the reason we are here this evening in Mumbai. Because Ian sent a mail saying he's coming to Mumbai, and we said, okay, we must do something really special, and that's why we've set up this India Today Conclave pop-up in Mumbai. Thank you very much, Ian Bremmer, for joining us here.
I'm delighted and I'm honored. It's a great event, and I'm really pleased that you put it together.
I must tell everyone watching, whether you're here in person or watching online or on television, a little bit about Ian Bremmer. Ian Bremmer is arguably the world's foremost expert on geopolitical risk. What that essentially means is if you run a country or if you run a company and you have no clue about what may happen next, you're looking for really sharp insights beyond what's visible on the surface, he's the guy to go to. And usually he charges a lot of money for those insights. Fortunately, he's not charging us, and we have him here, and we can benefit from the genius of his insights. So thank you very much, Ian Bremmer. Here's how we see these sessions. I'll go across the world asking Ian Bremmer about things that are happening. His speciality is he can tell you probabilistically what's likely to happen next, which is why his hot takes are so hot at Davos and elsewhere. So we'll start with India and the Indian elections. Most foreigners don't really want to come to a country which is bang in the middle of an election. They just want to see the results before deciding what to say and what to do. What brings you to India bang in the middle of the Indian election here?
Well, one is that, as you know, India is one of the very few unabashedly positive stories on the global stage today. It's a place that most countries are looking to get closer to. It's a country that increasingly has a global strategy, a strategy with the global south, a strategy with the West, not quite a strategy with China, but we can talk about that. The idea that we are increasingly in a multipolar economic world, not a security world, not a technological world, but economic world, and one of those poles is increasingly India. So I don't see how you can be in global business and not regularly come to this country. And especially given that my presumption, and it's a presumption, is that this is going to be one of the more stable and uncontroversial elections in the world this year, something that Fareed and I agree about, means that showing up in the middle of the election creates some excitement, but otherwise doesn't really matter all that much.
Interesting, because you're saying there is a certain level of predictability. Those in the opposition will say, hey, that's not quite the case. We've got a real election on our hands. But that aside, we'll know on the 4th of June. What's at stake internationally? When you talk to world leaders in global capitals, how are they seeing this Indian election and the India of the moment?
Well, as I said, and we can talk a lot about what India's strategy should be, but unlike China, which is a country that has grown incredibly over the last 50 years. But that rise on the international stage has increasingly been about itself, about ideologically redressing perceived grievances at the hands of colonial powers that did damage to it, repositioning itself to its rightful place historically, whether we talk about Taiwan or Hong Kong or the South China Sea or globally, but also a country that has an authoritarian political system and is becoming more so, and a country that has a state capitalist economic system and is arguably becoming more so. India's growth story is nowhere near as spectacular as China's, but it comes with a strategy and an ideology that is not anti-colonial. I mean, to the extent that Modi has enemies, they're mostly at home. They're mostly in India. They're not global. Modi is not only trying to position India as the leader of the global south, as a very effective Indian chairmanship of the G20 help display, but also, with the exception of Canada, which I think India has mishandled, but is also a comparatively small country, India is positioning itself as a bridge to the West, with stronger relations, more durable relations with Europe, with Japan, with the United States. All of those things are true at the same time. I think that that is a value. I think it's very important for the rest of the world looking at India not to be thinking about a country that is elbowing its way to control, to wrest the rules away from other countries, but rather a country that is trying to rise harmoniously and is defining itself increasingly on a global stage in concert with most other countries. I think that's very valuable, and I think that that is a mark of stability for a country that is, in my view, likely to have the same leadership, give or take, for 15 years. That's a big deal. That you can't find that combination of things in any country that matters around the world today. You can't find it. And that's a good reason to be here. Good reason to be here right now, and it's a good reason to be here generally.